We came, we saw, it kicked ass.
It did.
This is the official Clownfish TV review and reaction of Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yes.
I know a lot of people have been waiting for our opinion. I don't know why, but this is Neon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
We did go see Ghostbusters Afterlife last night.
Yep, first showing.
First showing, and we tweeted about it a little bit, and it was good.
It was really good.
It was really good. Like, I didn't have a lot of expectations for it because I'm so used to being disappointed, and I wasn't disappointed.
No. We'll probably do this, so we're doing first impressions without spoilers. We'll talk about some of the reactions first in the video. And at the very end, if we do any spoiler talk, it'll be then.
Yeah, so before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 241,000 subs.
Woo!
Thank you for the support. We do talk about pop culture. We talk a lot about the 1980s and being 80s and 90s kids ourselves over here. And we lament films in the 80s being better than the films being produced today for the most part.
A lot more creativity back in the 80s and 90s than there is now. And they have to rehash and ruin everything. And thankfully that is not the case here.
Yeah, so Ghostbusters Afterlife, it got delayed almost a year, I think. And it's been a long time coming. So weird because I saw McKenna Grace, who plays Phoebe. I saw they were talking about her on Twitter because she sang this song.
Yeah, the one song,
I don't think that's a spoiler, the end credits song. And she's like way older now than she was in this movie because it's probably been like 2+ years since they filmed it.
She was very good in this movie.
She was very good.
I'll give her a lot of credit. She was fantastic.
But yeah, we are hesitant to get excited about, reboots or remakes or sequels, reimaginings of anything that we grew up with because we have more often than not been sorely disappointed. This was a pleasant surprise.
It was very nice. If you're a fan of original Ghostbusters, you will like this one. I would say after the first original movie, this is probably the best one.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I thought about last night. I'm like, I would actually rank this one higher than Ghostbusters 2.
Well, I got to tell you, right off the bat, I immediately saw like 4 or 5 people saying they would want to go. They want to go see it again, or they did go see it again. Last night, Squid King is like, I want to go watch that again.
Yeah, which says something because we've got a teenager that will go see this movie again, and as much as it is a love letter to not just Ghostbusters but all 80s movies.
Yeah, it seems like 80s in general, yes.
Yeah, there's so many things here that, a lot of people brought that up as a criticism. A lot of critics brought it up as a criticism.
Hey, they're like, it felt more like Goonies than Ghostbusters. You know what? It felt more Ghostbusters than the 2016 movie felt Ghostbusters. And the 2016 movie pretty much copied the original beat for beat. This one did not, which I was worried about.
Yeah, that was what was really interesting is that, a lot of the critics have been, dunking on this movie. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. We get into some plot points. But they said that, this copy is the original beat for beat. I'm like, no, actually, 2016 is pretty much just a pale imitation of the original Ghostbusters.
It's almost like a parody, you say.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got 3 scientists that are displaced that go into business for themselves, busting ghosts.
And the one black person who's like some,
street smart black person,
collar, whatever. Yep. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Same thing, big showdown, the whole, so I would say 2016 is actually more of a beat for beat remake. And look, we're not gonna take, we're not gonna spend the majority of the video dunking on 2016. We've got opinions.
You're allowed to like it.
You're allowed to like it.
You know what? Here's a mind-blowing thought. You were allowed to like the 2016 movie and this one.
And some people did.
I know, you're allowed to like both because they're their own things.
I was very surprised how many blue checks on Twitter that I would consider probably, further left that were defending 2016 also liked this movie. Because
you're allowed to like both. You're allowed to like it. You're allowed to not like it. You're allowed to not like this one. That's completely fine. It's okay. But we're seeing already with the critics, it's a Rise of Skywalker situation all over again. But they're so busy white knighting for 2016 that they're just giving this thing bad reviews because, 2016, women, all female. And then they have to get some dig in there about the man babies because they're looking at this as a man babies getting in their way and not the fact that 2016 was not an actual sequel to the series and no one wanted that movie.
Yeah, it was ill-conceived. They never should have gone ahead with it. I don't know which executive, if it was Amy Pascal or whoever, greenlit that, but like they I think they realized early on they made a huge mistake because it seems like this one went into production like right after the fact. But here we have, this is, I think, The Guardian, talking about how it's a slimy, stinking corpse of a sequel.
It is not. And here's the thing. They said, go back to the other one real quick, the other post he had. Yeah, this one, they said a misjudged blend of pandering fan service and bizarrely played straight spectacle. No, it actually was really well thought out. That's not true. That's not what it did. It really was well thought out, and it made a lot of sense. And people can say it was slow. I didn't find it slow at all.
No.
Now, is it perfect? No, nothing is perfect.
It's not a perfect movie, but it is.
It's really good, though.
Yeah.
They had a couple ones that you're like, oh my God. Like, okay, there's a scene, I'm not going to ruin it, but there's a scene with a dress. You'll see it when you see the movie. And I was like, well, that was kind of dumb. That was pretty bad. But it's no worse than the dancing cop number in 2016.
Well, okay, so there might have been one or two cringy parts in Afterlife, but all of 2016, again,
was very cringy.
But, we're not going to, look, this movie is the true third Ghostbusters. If you've been, lamenting the fact that they don't make movies like they used to in the 1980s, 1990s, this movie is absolutely for you because it feels on every level like something that could have been made
in the 80s or 90s.
In the 80s and 90s, yeah.
I mean, the cinematography.
The cinematography, the plot points, the language the kids use. Feels like a riff on not just, Goonies, but like Monster Squad and so many other,
you know what got me too? The people are having a fit, and right away they're like, well, that's because you don't like female-led movies. That's why you didn't like 2016. You don't like strong women. The main character is the little girl. And you know what else? There are two other really strong female characters that are, good characters, well thought out characters, diverse characters in this one too. And you know what? People don't have no problem with those characters because they aren't like, it's all women because every male in this movie is dumb. All men are idiots. It isn't like that.
No, not at all.
It's played like an actual movie with like a diverse mixed cast that play off each other, and there isn't one character that's like the strongest, most super character ever. They all have their purpose, and they all work together, and it's actually really good.
Yeah, you don't notice that the best use of diversity and inclusion is when you don't notice it because it's normalized.
Right, because it's like you don't think anything of it. Like,
right.
Most people did 5 to 6 years ago.
You don't have to call attention to it. You don't have to, it's, yeah. And, it's good. It's really good. Again, we'll get into the spoilers here in a minute. I'm just trying to give you, the overview. Had very little expectation for it going in. In fact, I almost forgot that we were going to go see it. And I remember thinking driving to the theater, I was kind of quiet, and I was kind of like, let's just rip the Band-Aid off because I know we're going to be disappointed. I'm so used to being let down by Hollywood, especially when it comes to, strip mining nostalgia. That I'm like, it's going to suck. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. And I had the same feeling, the same reaction to this as I did the new CGI He-Man, where I'm like, I was so soured on He-Man because of the Revelation debacle.
And mostly it comes down to, too, what you're soured on is the way the media behaves.
Yes.
The way that Twitter behaves. The way,
working on the movie
behaves.
Yeah.
And you know what? If Hollywood wants people to come back to their movies, even if I didn't like, even in 2016, I think they wouldn't have got as much backlash had they not acted like assholes about it.
Yeah.
And even the reviews, they're deliberately tagging it. Like, they liked Last Jedi, for example. And when Rise of Skywalker walked back Last Jedi, because Last Jedi wrapped up pretty much everything, so they had to. They were mad about, they gave Rise of Skywalker shitty reviews because how dare you undo my Last Jedi. It's like that, but it was 2016 Ghostbusters.
Yeah, so personal opinion, it's if you love the original and you love 80s movies, some of these reviews.
Well, not just that, I'm like, it had fan service moments, yes. I'm not going to say it didn't. But it wasn't like they make it out.
No.
Like, it was like they didn't bring attention to a lot of it. It was just organically woven in that you happened to see it there and stuff tied into the original movie. Actually, it seems like they kind of just stepped over the Ghostbusters too, honestly.
Yeah, that was what was interesting too. Just I don't think that's much of a spoiler where this feels more like a direct sequel to the original Ghostbusters, and there's not much other than Well, I don't want to give plot points away, but there's like one or two little nods to Ghostbusters 2, but for the most part, they kind of sidestep Ghostbusters 2.
Right. And the thing is, when they're going about fan service, they're making it sound like they were deliberately, there's a couple moments that's cringy that they're obviously trying to fit it in there. But for the most part, it's like stuff in the background or like, things that they say in passing, like assuming you know this already because you like to watch the first movie and it ties into it. It's not like, do we mention this because of this? And fan service here. It wasn't like that at all. It was just organically woven in, like the diversity.
Yeah,
Imagine that.
It was handled much better, I think, than this. It
was handled with care.
Basically, this movie is what fans wanted from The Force Awakens. I think.
Because you didn't get like the original cast back together in The Force Awakens or anything like that. And here's, how hard is it? They keep going fan service like it's a bad thing. If you have fans of a franchise and you have people that have kept it alive for years and years and years, and they love it, and they spend money on it, and you're making a movie that's in that brand, why the hell is that a bad thing? I don't understand this. Like, okay, so you go to McDonald's all the time because you love the Big Mac. Well, why did they suddenly change the Big Mac for no damn reason and said they're making it a big chicken because of diversity? And then they do all kinds of stuff to it, and they make it vegan and put all this other shit on it, and then you don't like it, and then they're like, well, it's because fans of McDonald's would really love it. You're just not real fans. And then they bring a Big Mac back, and then they're like, well, you're just pandering to the man babies for fan service. It's like, because that was what your brand was built on. It doesn't make sense. You do these one-offs that suck like shit, and then you're mad at the fans when they don't like it. And then when they do something that's for the fans, that you act like that's a bad thing. That is not a bad thing. I don't know why this is such a hard concept for you people to wrap your head around.
They're angry because the fans are winning, and the fans at the end of the day.
I'm angry because I'm talking about McDonald's.
At the end of the day, the fans are the ones that decide if your franchise lives or dies.
And they get mad about that. They're like, it's not for you. Don't watch it then. So they don't. And they yell at you for not watching it too. Ghostbusters 2016 did not do well globally. It wasn't because of Trump. It wasn't because of misogyny. It wasn't because of all that shit. Ghostbusters 2016 had a lot of problems, and being all female cast wasn't the only thing that was an issue with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I think we're gonna get into spoiler territory here. It was James Rolfe. I couldn't remember his name. It was Angry Video Game Nerd, I guess. Wouldn't review 2016 because he was a huge.
It wasn't for him.
Yeah, it wasn't for him. He was a huge Ghostbusters fan. He wasn't like dunking. He was just like, I have zero interest in seeing a reboot.
The number one complaint people had when they announced it was not that it was all women. They didn't care about that. The number one complaint they had was, why do we need another movie?
Yeah.
That was the number one complaint. And then you got Bridesmaids, aka Ghostbusters 2016, and people were like, the humor was too hokey, and it was just really every dude in that movie was either an asshole or an idiot.
Yeah, and that was intentional. And here's the thing though, Sony is so enamored with multiverse concepts now that I could totally see. I'm being honest.
Get twice the money from that. Those people love that and the new one.
I could totally see them, finding a way to do a sequel down the road that brings in the 2016. They just have to do like a multiverse crossover thing. They're doing it with Spider-Man. They can totally do it with Ghostbusters, just to shut everybody up and be like,
well,
okay,
I hope they don't, because
I hope they don't either, but you never know.
I mean, just the way it was handled the whole way around kind of sucked. But anyway, so now we're going to talk spoilers apparently. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers, you probably want to turn it off now. But I will tell you, if you're going to go see it, because it is actually really good. I know many people are going to see it more than once, which is probably a good thing this weekend because then you're boosting the numbers. But go see it. And then you can come back and listen to the rest of this video afterwards. Yeah.
All right. So spoilers. All right. So this movie is to Ghostbusters what Cobra Kai is to the Karate Kid.
I would agree.
This movie introduces new characters and new concepts. Regardless, and there's a lot of fan service, a lot of nods to the past, but it works. And contrary to what the reviewers are saying, I don't know what movie they saw. I liked all the kids. I
thought they were fun. They're like, it was more Goonies. Like that. Like that's a bad thing.
That's a bad thing.
That's a bad thing. How?
I thought Phoebe and Podcast were great.
Mm-hmm. Phoebe, the girl that McKenna
Grace.
She is so good. I mean, the girl clearly has like to be autistic or something, and she nails it.
But they don't hit you upside the head with it either. It's just like, oh, she's awkward. She's not good in social
And
settings.
she's funny, but her jokes aren't like, where are my wontons? It wasn't like
Oh my
that.
God, yeah. I actually one of the funniest things
No dance numbers.
one of the funniest things she said, I thought, was, and a lot of these lines I think are going to be quotable. I mean, obviously we'd have to watch it again, but she said something to the effect of like, I might have a hard time expressing my emotions, but trust me, I'm vomiting on the inside. When they were talking about Paul Rudd hooking up with her mom, I thought that was funny, and it was podcast again. This is very 80s dialogue where he's like, I think he's gonna bone your mom. That is like right out of the 80s. Like you can't say that anymore.
No.
Yeah. So now where it retreads the original Ghostbusters, obviously Gozer returns. And it turns out that Gozer this time is, Gozer as Gozer gets a lot more screen time than the original. We have Ivo Shandor show up, which is J.K. Simmons, which I actually didn't even get. He was in it so little, I didn't even catch it.
I caught it right away by his face.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, it's Ivo Shandor, because he was in the video game. He was like the main bad guy in the video game. So I'm assuming this overwrites the video game. But he shows up for like a minute, and that's about it.
Yeah, I will say that part though, because we're the spoiler territory. Like we were talking about that in the car, the ripping him in half thing was kind of hokey. And then the other part that I thought was kind of was the dress part where she like suddenly puts on this gold gown and like boom, turns, and then she eats the dandelion. I was like,
that was the only cringy, but I think that was kind of like the awkwardness of like Rick Moranis but that was the only time that we ever got into like I think what would be pure
and
cringe.
Even the little I was worried about the Stay Puft minis.
Yeah.
I was worried they were going to play them too much. I mean, I still don't understand the point of it other than nostalgia there, because they really have no point. I don't think they were marking him. That's why they bit him.
Yeah.
It kind of wasn't necessary, but it was cute and it's merchandisable, and they have a deal with Walmart and it's at Walmart. So I mean, I get it. That it was. They're cute though. It wasn't too much.
Yeah, I was worried that they were going to be like hanging out with the mini marshmallows, and so you've got some Gremlins in there. With,
kind of.
You've got some Goonies in there. You've got some Monster Squad in there. I feel like there may be some Explorers or something in there too, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because this movie isn't just a love letter to the original Ghostbusters. It's also a love letter to like a lost era of cinema where J.J. Abrams thinks he recaptures that.
Yeah.
Jason Reitman actually recaptures that. And Jason Reitman, frankly, has more street cred because his dad's Ivan Reitman, his dad, created this, or helped create this.
So he kind of knows like a lot more about it than probably anybody does.
The thought process behind it. And no, I thought it was a good movie. Again, back to Gozer, it's Olivia Wilde, and who was in Tron Legacy. And
she does a good job.
Yeah, and Gozer gets a lot more screen time.
And it's neat because the Gozer is supposed to be like, there's like a boy or girl, whatever it wants, like it's non-binary.
Whatever form.
And one thing that was interesting was, it was times the way they did the makeup or had the voice, you couldn't tell if it was supposed to be a girl or a boy. Sometimes you're like, is that a guy? And then sometimes you're like, is that a girl? It was, other than the figure being female-ish, you're kind of like, wait, that seems kind of dude-like.
One thing I wish they would have done, because it was originally supposed to be Pee Wee Herman was supposed to be
I don't
Paul
think
Rubens
that would
was supposed to be Gozer. I would have loved for the form of the Destructor to have been Pee Wee Herman or something, or Paul Rubens. I don't know. I would have loved that.
No, I wouldn't have. But you can like that.
Just to get that in there, that
you can write your fanfic.
But no, it didn't really feel like fanfic. It could have been a lot more heavy-handed.
Yeah, the way the reviewers keep spinning it, it's like, oh my god, it's fan service right and left. There's a lot of fan things in it, but it wasn't fan servicey right and left. Like, I mean, the books stacked the way they were was cool, and they had. Now, I think I get why they had Muncher in there, because they needed him later for like a plot point.
Device, yeah.
But I guess it's a new Slimer for whatever reason, and they had that in the original, so it fits. It fits with it. I always thought Slimer was kind of pointless. I think Muncher is too, but it fits. It feels very Ghostbusters.
Yeah, and he's a very Ghostbusters type ghost, but he doesn't. So he doesn't chew the scenery. No, he doesn't get a lot of screen time. Kind of like Slimer in the first movie, where Slimer was there, but then he wound up being an unexpected hit, and it was Josh Gad did Muncher.
I know, it was funny.
Thank God he didn't sing. That would have been.
Yeah, no, we don't want to go back to 2016. There's enough singing in that one for everybody. But, it was good. And people keep saying it's slow. I didn't get that it was slow.
I did not get that at all. I mean, it
had a longer build-up, and then it kind of, was over faster, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be a lot more fight at the end than there was.
after all the buildup, I somehow thought that the climax was going to be a little more intense.
But it was really well done.
Yeah,
it was really good. And, and then I think they handled Harold Ramis and Egon very, very well.
Now, here's another concern people had about it, and actually a concern I had too, especially when they're like, oh, we have a young female scientist, science buff. It's like, oh, she's going to be the best. She's going to be... No. Actually, a lot of the heavy lifting is done by Egon after he dies. Mm-hmm. Like, she does... I mean, she is smart, but she is also being led by Egon to, and there are a couple of jokes, like she's like, how are you so smart? I love it that the ghost of Egon points the light at all the degrees on the wall. She's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And then her mom's like anti-science. It's funny. And mom's great. The mom's great because she's like, I don't know, she's opposite of the daughter. Yeah. And it's just, I can't explain it, but I know it was kind of like, it was nice having a character like that wasn't, do you know what I mean? Like a girl that was kind of like, messed up, but she was doing the best she can to be a mom, and she was very relatable.
Yeah, and she didn't understand Phoebe very well. She hated her dad. We never do.
All for good reasons.
I don't think we ever do find out, unless it's hidden in the back. We never find out who her mom is.
No, I don't think they tell you who her mom was.
I'll be honest, I can't picture Egon with anybody. And they've kind of undid any chance for that with Janine, because they put Janine with Louis Tully in the second movie. But then again...
we don't see Rick Moranis in this, by the way.
No, unfortunately.
Which is a bummer.
Now, this one, speaking of the second movie, they do kind of step over Ghostbusters 2. A couple things. The Ecto-1 is actually the Ghostbusters 1 version.
Right. And then on the wall in the timeline, when they had the different dates of when things happened, they didn't have
1989.
Yeah, they didn't have 89 on the list.
Now, that could have been the timeline for Gozer causing problems.
Right, I get that. But I was still like, you think they would, because that's anytime something bad happened.
2021's on the timeline, and we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, yeah, you think 2020, but it was 2021.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know if they changed that because they pushed the release date
back.
I
think they probably did. I think it was probably 2020, which would have worked better if it was 2020.
Yeah.
But, it's really, really, really good. And a lot of what the complaints are, I'm not seeing, it's not a rip off the first movie.
No, they said it wasn't funny. The humor, I think, was dead on with
Ghostbusters.
With Ghostbusters. And a lot of dry humor, a lot of lines that I think are going to be quotable. We get Bill Murray at the end acting like 80s Bill Murray again, which was great to see. By the way, there are 2 post-credits scenes. There's a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene, and you want to stay for both of them because this is really worth it. Should we spoil that? I guess
we're in the spoilers anyway.
Yeah, we're in spoilers anyway. So the first post-credit scene is Venkman with Dana, because they actually at the end they were like, oh, and Sigourney Weaver. It's like, oh yeah, we didn't see Sigourney Weaver. Well, she's actually giving him the psychic shock test, and I think it's implied they're together.
That's what I think.
They're together. So I think Venkman and Dana actually wind up together, and it's just like an old couple just messing around with this. And I thought that was a great scene. It was a really good scene. And then we've got the credits roll. We're like, oh, that was nice. We got to see Dana again and whatever. And then we get the post-credits scene, which for a number of reasons I was excited about. One, they clearly are planning sequels.
Well, they did at the beginning when they had Ghost Corps.
Yeah, it was like Ghost
Corps. I think that's what people were tying into the one cartoon show.
Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Extreme Ghostbusters. They were saying, and this is where the tie-in is, but instead of Egon,
we might get Winston.
It might be Winston.
So here's the thing. They actually do tell you in the movie, and one of the only nods, again, back to Ghostbusters 2 was that Ray's got his bookstore.
Right.
And the Ghostbusters number goes, I guess, to...
He doesn't answer it usually.
He doesn't answer it usually, but the phone's there, and he's like, oh, God, okay, whatever. And, and it turns out that Winston's been bankrolling. So as Ray explains it, Venkman went back to work at a university. Winston became like a billionaire.
Yeah, global businessman, which is great because they took him from what one complaint people had was everybody else is scientist, but he, they didn't have him up there too. Well, no, now he's bankrolling them.
Yeah, and of course Ray just runs a bookshop, and they had a falling out with Egon years ago because Egon was convinced that Gozer was coming back, and took a bunch of the equipment, took the Ecto-1, and ran off to the middle of nowhere to stop it because he
left his family, but he did it because he was trying to save everybody.
Yeah, and they which I mean that's only one
Why would they not believe him?
gripe I have is Egon's always right.
Yeah, why would you not believe Egon?
Egon is always right.
Well, they were mad. They set up that because he didn't let them know why he did it till like 10 years after he did. I guess he took everything and left, but he didn't let them know 10 years later. And at that point, they were just so pissed that they didn't believe him.
Yeah. So they thought he just kind of like embezzled from the business, and then the Ghostbusters kind of fell apart. But yeah, Winston and Janine, who Janine does get a cameo in this one too, and she's very much herself, and she's like, yeah, Egon wasn't good at paying bills, just Egon wasn't good at life, you know. They don't wind up together. I thought maybe Janine's the mom. No, Janine's not the mother. But they use one of the cutscenes where, and people that have seen the cutscenes, where she gives Egon her World's Fair coin, and it's cool. And then they segue into present day where Janine is meeting with Winston in his corporate headquarters, and he's basically like, I'm putting the Ghostbusters back together. I'm going to bankroll Ghostbusters. And I thought it was really cool to see, because I don't know a lot of people, I think I talked about before when I did the toy reviews. Winston's actually my favorite Ghostbuster.
He was my favorite too, actually.
Yeah, I love Winston, because Winston you had these three scientist guys that, other than, like, you had Egon, to me when I was a kid, Egon was like, okay, he's the really kind of dry one, the weird one. We've got Ray, who's just kind of there and dopey, and we've got Peter, who is the kind of sleazy, funny one. But Winston was like, oh, this is an outsider coming into the Ghostbusters. And, like, this is what anybody coming into the Ghostbusters from the outside would see, is like these guys. And he also broke it down in plain English. Like, they were talking, like, gobbledygook, and he could break it down. He was my first Ghostbuster action figure. When
I went to go buy you, when they had the re-release figures, that's why I grabbed. I was like, I didn't know what to get you, Egon or Winston. I was like, because I knew you like both, but I was like, Winston's the one you really like.
Yeah, Winston, and he was the first one I got, and we have a character in Shadowbinders named Winston.
And that's why.
Because of Winston. So the fact that and Ernie Hudson just seems like a really nice guy. Like, I've seen him at Pittsburgh Comic Con or at the Pittsburgh conventions and stuff. It just seems like a really nice guy. So they're gonna apparently put the Ghostbusters back together, but with his bankrolling, which means they're probably going to have sequels, with different teams of Ghostbusters. And they've talked about doing this before, like a West Coast Ghostbusters. Now, this could go horribly wrong. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, well, they have Ghost Corps, so I don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
But it's cool because they're going to have Winston and be in charge, if they even get that far. If this doesn't make a lot of money, they probably aren't going to do that.
That's the other concern I have.
If you want to see more of this, and you need to get it out there, let people know you want to see more of this.
If they do like a Ghostbusters universe and they put Jason Reitman in charge, and he gets to be like the Kevin Feige of Ghostbusters, it could work. Get the tone right. Like, this was a good reintroduction to that universe, and they could totally build off of that. And you can pass the torch as long as it's done in a respectful way.
That's it. They could have done it with The Force Awakens, but they every opportunity they had to get it done right, they threw away. And like, Ray automatically knew how to do everything because she was Ray. We didn't have that here with Phoebe. I think they got it kind of right with her, because she, wasn't the best at everything automatically. She had an aptitude. She was smart. She obviously, because she's clearly like autistic or something, so she's focused on what she likes to do. And she has natural aptitude for, like, building things and making things, which some kids do. But it wasn't like she knew how to do everything automatically because she was her,
Yeah, even with the proton pack, like, she had to practice, for one thing, and it took them a while to figure it out. Egon had to lead her to fix it. And we didn't have this stupid montage like we had in 2016 where they're goofing around with the proton packs. Then they've got, freaking proton brass knuckle gloves and proton pistols and all this other shit. Like, they actually treat the equipment seriously. Like, it was a huge accomplishment for Egon to come up with this stuff. Not everybody's going to understand how it works. Not even their science teacher's going to understand how this stuff works. Took them a while to figure it all out, you know?
I don't know. It's just really good. I mean, go. That's all I got to tell you is go. I mean, I'm sure we could talk a lot more about it, but I'd rather you go see it. So go.
Go. Go now. Go.
Yes.
Just go. All right. We're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Yeah. Good weekend, guys. It's one of the few times Hollywood.
You actually said it actually made you feel happy. Like,
I did.
With so much shit in the world, for lack of a better term, Neon said it made him happy.
For a brief moment, I was happy. I was like, wait, Hollywood can still make movies like this if they want to. And
there's no identity politics or shit shoved in it. It's just let's save the world and a bunch of people working together, and they're just organically diverse, and it's organic fan service for the most part. And, and I wouldn't even call it fan service. They just hide, like, it's Easter eggs. They're Easter eggs is what it is. So,
Go. It's good.
Yep, go.
All right, we're going to wrap it up?
Yep.
Okay, please subscribe. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.